Assalamu alaikum, grade 6 students. Today we are going to start chapter number 8, The Journey Across America, from your literature books Around the World in 80 Days, and it is given on page number 61 of your book. You have to read the whole chapter by yourselves, and I'll just give you the brief description of chapter number 8. I am just showing you the front page or the starting page of chapter number 8, and you have to read all the pages by yourself, class, but I am giving you the brief description related to the whole chapter. So there were two cities named New York and San Francisco, which were joined by railway, and the railway was about 3,786 miles. Railway was controlled by Red Indians. Phileas Fogg hoped that the journey would be over in 7 days, so that Mr. Fogg would be able to catch the Liverpool steamship on the 11th from New York. Then Mrs. Ouder, Mr. Fogg, Mr. Fix, and one other passenger were happily playing Mr. Fogg's favorite game, whist, on the train. The name of the game was whist, W-H-I-S-T, whist, okay, because Mrs. Ouder persuaded Mr. Fogg, and they were all playing because Mrs. Ouder persuaded means to urge, or she made Mr. Fogg to play that game, okay. But suddenly terrible cries and sounds of shooting were heard. The train was attacked by a group of Indians. They had guns and horses, and they raced beside the moving train. They all were daring fighters, and it was not the first attempt to stop a train. They were shooting at the passengers and climbing on board. The passengers, being Americans, carried their own guns. The passengers, being American, they all had their own guns, and soon a real gun fight was going on between the passengers and the Indians. The Indians killed the engineer and his helper, and they entered the passenger carriages. They ran over the roofs, and they fought hand to hand with the passengers. The passengers also fought bravely, and the train was going about 100 miles an hour. Mrs. Ouder was also attacking with a gun in her hand, and she fired through a window near her whenever she saw an Indian. So Mrs. Ouder was also attacking Indians. Whenever she saw an Indian, she fired him through a window which was near her. Several passengers were badly wounded. Wounded means they were badly injured. The train was to stop near the army camp, or else they could expect no help from anyone. So it was necessary that train should stop near the army camp, or else they would get no help from anyone. The train guard was also badly wounded, and he cried, "We are lost if the train does not stop within 5 minutes." Phileas Fogg said calmly that the train shall be stopped. He will make sure. So guard cried that they would lose if the train did not stop within 5 minutes, but Phileas Fogg assured him that he will stop the train. Now, what happened then? Mr. Fogg was about to rush, but he was stopped by Passepartout. Okay, so Passepartout is a French word, and it is pronounced like Passepartout. Passepartout. Okay, Passepartout asked Mr. Fogg to stay with Mrs. Ouder, and he said that he will do it. Passepartout got out of the carriage and succeeded in slipping underneath it. When everyone was doing struggle and shooting at each other, Passepartout made his way to the front of the train. So when everyone was struggling means when everyone an attempt to achieve something. Okay, so struggle means to attempt to achieve something. So when everyone was struggling, Passepartout made his way to reach the front of the train, and he finally reached the front. Then he pulled out the huge iron bar which was hanging between the baggage car and the engine. Now the train was free of the engine, and it began to slow down, and it finally stopped less than 100 feet from Fort Kearny station. The soldiers ran toward the train when they heard firing, and the Indians did not wait for them because they knew they could not win against the soldiers. Several passengers were missing, including the brave Frenchman, and no one knew about them. So many of the passengers were missing, class, including the Frenchman Passepartout. Mrs. Ouder was safe. Phileas Fogg was not seriously wounded, but Passepartout was missing. Mr. Fogg assured Mrs. Ouder that he will find Passepartout alive, and by this decision Mr. Fogg sacrificed himself completely. So sacrifice means that he surrendered or he loosed himself completely because a single day's delay would make him miss the steamship from the New York and his bet would be lost. But then he thought that it was his duty and he did not hesitate. Then the captain commanding Fort Kearny had conversation with Mr. Fogg, but about the missing passengers, and the captain quickly chose 30 men to go with him and Mr. Fogg. Detective Fix stayed with Mrs. Ouda. To Mrs. Ouda, Mr. Fogg was a hero because he was ready to sacrifice his fortune and his life from sense of duty. Then Fix and Mrs. Ouda sat on the train. The train started slowly and soon it disappeared into the distance. So basically, train disappeared means to vanish. When it passed far, it disappeared, it vanished, it was not able to be viewed or it was not viewed again, it was disappeared. Okay, then at 7 o'clock a party of men was seen returning to the fort. Mr. Fogg, Passepartout and two other passengers could be seen and they all were rescued. So all the passengers and Mr. Fogg and Passepartout were rescued. Detective Fix asked Mr. Fogg that did he wish to try a sledge with sails. So what was a sledge with sails? It was a vehicle that looked like a boat with a sail and long pieces of wood called runners which were situated underneath it. It had 6 seats. At 8 o'clock the sledge was ready. The sails were raised and sledge sped across the snow at a speed of 40 miles an hour. It should take 5 hours and they could then catch another train on to New York. Everything went well and they caught a train to New York. The train entered the Great New York station on the evening of 11th. So basically everything ended well and Mr. Fogg reached to New York safely after so much adventure, and like this the chapter ends. So you have to do all the written work which will be provided to you in the form of PPTs and you have to read the chapter by yourself again.